Hey guys, I was listening to this one, and it's fairly bloody and interesting. I also saw some that piqued my interest, and I want to write them down for you. The first one is called Good Guy Satan. Second one is Wolves, Yet Not Wolves. And lastly, God of Nature and Technology. Dad told me that he worked for a radio station, but I figured it was a boring one, like country or jazz. Never did I expect it to be anything like this. Why didn't he tell me about this sooner? This is so amazing. I will have to talk to him about this later. There was even Slipknot playing before this story. I can't wait till I can post the other stories. I have to listen to them several times over in order to write everything down. So, please enjoy The Plague of Skeletons. Radio show host. Hello, listeners. We end another night of music and fun with a story. This one comes from someone who wants to be anonymous, so we will respect their wishes. Now, here's a small rant before we start. So, don't worry. I'll try to make it short. I personally don't like zombies. Now, you might be asking me why, and it's very simple. I think they're boring. In movies, they're played by actors with corpse makeup on, and I think, unless the makeup is good, I don't think, oh my god, it's a zombie. I think, oh, it's a zombie. Now, I am not saying zombie movies are bad. I believe zombies, as monsters, are just boring. Now, you might be asking me, why are you doing this rant on air and not at some bar? It's quite simple. This is a zombie story. And it does something that I don't think anyone else has seen before. It makes the concept of a zombie interesting. At least, to me, it does. But I will stop ranting like a madman and introduce you to The Plague of Skeletons, read by Mary Solman. My name is Emily Bratman, and I'm a survivor of the apocalypse. And this is my journal. This isn't day one, but I can't remember when the virus happened, or where it f***ing came from. We are moving again. I'll write again when we get somewhere safe. Right. I guess day 2 is no more like entry 2. It hasn't been a day yet. I wish I hadn't written in pen. I should write about who I'm with and what is happening. I also should write who I am as well. I have already told you my name, and I am with my best friend, Troy. He's been with me since the apocalypse. Also, it helps that we've known each other since middle school. But the apocalypse. As I said before, I have no idea where it came from. The news didn't even say where it could possibly come from. But the power went out everywhere, including my apartment, before anyone could. At first, it was just a normal blackout. But then I heard screaming. Then came a frantic knocking on the door, which was my neighbor trying to get in. I didn't know his name, and still don't, but he was definitely older than me. Maybe in his late 60s, slightly balding, and kind of in shape. I let him in and started to ask him questions about what was happening. Then he puked up blood. It flowed out like a waterfall onto my carpet. And he began to convulse and shake violently. But to my horror, the meat of his arm sloughed off, only leaving a skeletal arm with only the tendons and red veins crisscrossing it. Then he started to scream until more blood came back out from his mouth. He just kept shaking, and more of his body kept sloughing off of his body until he was only a bloody skeleton. The only thing from him that was left was his eyes. I thought he was dead until his eyes looked straight at me. He then stood up much quicker for something with no muscles left. He just stood there for a good minute. Enough time for me to grab my guitar. He ran at me so fast that I almost missed with my makeshift bat. The guitar made a terrible noise when I hit him in the ribs. What was my neighbor hit my dining room table, breaking the spine at almost a 90-degree angle. I thought he was dead again, mainly because his spine made an audible crack when he hit the table. But the worst part is he was still alive. He moved his head up to stare at me again. With his skeletal hands, he started to move towards me. He got to the ground, but at this point, I did not want to deal with this anymore. You may call it bravery. I'd call it adrenaline and fear. He was on the ground, crawling towards me as I brought my guitar down on his head. I think I smashed it about 10 times before my guitar broke with the skull. I heard more banging from the door. Luckily, I locked it. But I also heard scratches as well. I called Troy, and thankfully, he picked up. He was dealing with the same thing, but luckily, he was a former Marine. So the skeleton zombie apocalypse was his thing. At least I think so. At least I think so. He drove to my apartment complex, and something I never thought I would be thankful for was the fire escape. The spotters, as we call them now, I'll tell you why later, were breaking down the door. I climbed down to his car and drove off in our new apocalypse. Day 3 is more like day 7 of this journal. We ran into an army camp. No one was there, and the supplies, but most importantly, the guns, were gone. It's a defensible spot, so we're camping out here for the night. So I thought I should explain what I mean by spotters. It didn't feel right to call the skeleton zombies. There are two types. We have the spotters, who have eyes, and then we have the chatters, who don't have eyes and chatter their teeth together. Spotters are freshly changed and more lively than the chatters. Speaking of chatters, which are older skeletons with rotted out eyes, it turns out that things start to rot away when you don't have any eyelids or other vital organs. The veins and what's left of the nervous system are blackened by my guess, by the outside elements. They can't see anything anymore, but can still hear. So they typically stick together while chattering. Spotters are more dangerous if you're alone, but they're even more dangerous if they're with a chatter horde. If a spotter, spots someone, it will alert every single member of the horde to come and either infect you or rip your flesh off. I've seen that way too many times. Oh, I also forgot today's date is 2025. Back then, when it all started for me, it was 2019. I hate to say it, but I miss worrying about rent, taxes, and grocery stores. Most importantly, I miss writing music, strumming on my guitar, and daydreaming about being a rock star. I guess that's not going to happen now. Entry 4. I decided not to go with days anymore, since it's probably been 40 days since I wrote in this thing, give or take. Anyway, today's been strange. It started off as usual with me and Troy rode around on bicycles, not motorcycles, for obvious reasons. Trying to hunt, scavenge, and hide from the hordes. If you're wondering why I haven't been describing my day, mainly because that's what we mostly do. Although when me and Troy were trying to escape the city, It wasn't like that shitty zombie movie with Brad Pitt in it, where the zombies are running at everyone. It was quiet, with no one on the streets and barely any cars out on the road. It felt like a dead city. Anyway, why does today feel so weird? Anyway, why does today feel so weird? We found a chatter horde. All the skeletons looked up in the sky. They were still alive because there was light chattering coming from them. They will constantly chatter for a reference. So much so that they would crack their teeth and lose some in the process. And hordes get up to the thousands. So, I'll let you imagine how loud the sound is. However, these ones were quiet, besides the odd sound from them. I accidentally moved a bottle. It rolled off to the street and shattered when it hit the pavement. I thought that would be my last mistake, and I was gonna pull Troy into it. But they just stood there, staring at the sky. Troy, being suspicious, grabbed the scavenged firecracker, lit it, and threw it off to the other building to see what happened. Nothing. They just stood there. I wanted to get closer to them, but Troy quickly vetoed that idea. We didn't want to stay there for long, just in case this is a new hunting tactic by them. We quickly skimmed the buildings for anything useful and left the area. All the while, the skeletons just stood there. That is pretty much it. I am going to bookmark this as an ending, since I'm bad at those. So, yeah. Entry 5. Something is wrong in the place we're in. Troy and I just got to the border of Florida, and the town we got to was empty. Usually, there would be a horde of chatters, maybe one or two spotters in with them, but it's stupidly quiet. We are too tired to ride our bikes to the next town, so we must stay in a rundown motel until tomorrow. If you're reading this, then I am dead. Entry 6. Nothing happened, and the town stayed quiet. There's just no horde here for some reason. Me and Troy are gonna go to the next town. It felt nice not to hear chattering at night. And, I guess, Entry 7. We've been through about 3 towns now, and there's no skeletons. Not one peep. On the one hand, I am elated that we don't have to worry about skeletons running straight at us. But I'm also worried that there's a hideout somewhere dealing with hundreds of skeletons attacking survivors. Troy thinks the same thing. And he's thinking if it's a migration, he believes we could grab more supplies from the survivor holdouts. It's a bit morbid, but he's right. If this is happening, and we can find it, we can see what the leftovers are. I will write more if I survive and or find something. Entry 8. We've been through around 8 towns and the city, and there is nothing, no survivors, and no skeleton horde. Me and Troy thought we would have found someone by now. Now, don't get me wrong, we did find survivors when this whole apocalypse first started. But more and more, we didn't find people. We're holding up in a nice hotel now, in the penthouse. How I wish we could stay, but the food has mold. And what's left is mainly alcohol, which isn't nothing, but it isn't food. I still find it strange how there's seemingly nothing in the city. I will write more later. Entry 9. We found someone. We were packing up and Troy was keeping watch, and he spotted a man with a cane in a green suit and a mask with some sort of weird white squid on it. We debated using some flares we found in the town we came from before we came to the city, and we decided to use one to get his attention. And before you start thinking we could have shouted at him, it was a 40-story building. That did the trick, and he started walking towards the building. I will write more when we get done talking to him. I'm hoping he's a traitor. Shh. He killed Troy. We met him downstairs, and he had a horde of chatters behind him. They weren't attacking him. He just stood there. As he was looking at an art piece on the right side of a wall, he turned to us slowly, with both hands on his cane. And we saw a skull with tentacles coming from the bottom, and a green, smooth ruby embedded into it. He stood there quietly until he lifted his cane and tapped the ground 3 times. The fucking skeletons ran past him straight for us. We ran as fast as we could. Troy had a pistol he kept for emergencies and shot behind us. I didn't look. I heard a shot, and I heard a skeleton fall. But, God, there are so many. We got to a staircase. I looked behind me, then I saw Troy getting grabbed by the horde. He just yelled, "Run!" I saw him try to fight back by punching one of them in the face. I didn't see what happened next. I just ran upstairs, locked myself into the penthouse, and started writing. I don't know what to do. I'm thinking since I have all the rope, I can just... Hello. My name does not need to be known, but I will continue where she left off. Miss Bratman overlooked one of them. I will call them what she calls a spotter, who crawled up the vent after they left. She got bitten, and she ran into the bathroom. I let myself in, and I found this journal. I hate leaving stories unfinished, but I digress. She was feeling afraid. She did not realize the wound was getting inflamed. Cellular degradation began. Her body attacking itself. Her molecules rearranging themselves to lose some pounds. I walked down towards the bathroom door and wait. She can hear me behind the door, her heart beating faster from the sickness taking hold and being behind the door. The first minute went by and the pain started. At first, a dull ache. Then her bones felt like they were on fire. What she couldn't see was her nervous system binding itself around her bones, and her veins rooting themselves on the same bones. She could still move and started pacing and beating her fist on the marble finish of the sink. The water still worked in the building, so she turned on the cold water and splashed herself with it. It did not help. It did not get worse either, because her index finger flesh came off, leaving a bloody skeleton finger in its place. She did not realize another minute had passed. She sat by the tub and waited for what would happen next. That's when I came into the room, still writing in her journal. I told her, "If you have any questions, please ask now, for you have 3 minutes." She said, "Up your ass." And I said, "Please don't say that." She came to her senses and asked, "Who are you?" I responded, "A friend of a friend, twice removed." She asked, "Who did this?" I asked her to elaborate. She said, "The skeletons." She shouted that one. I responded, "It was me, of course." Another minute went by. I let her know she had 2 minutes. The pain is so intense that she cannot move anymore. The virus is finalizing its transformation. With gritted teeth, she asked, "Why?" I responded, "Someone spit on my shoes." She started shouting at me, not really asking questions, but more of a cacophony of swears. She went on for so long that her last minute came by, and I let her know of this when she felt the pain of her own skeletal arm coming away from her flesh. I let her know about one thing before the complete transformation took hold. I spoke in her ear. You, Emily, you and Troy were the last people on Earth. I was having trouble finding you two until you two shot up that flare. I saw her eyes widen as she leaned forward to leave her back muscles and her whole front half slough off. She became a spotter. I will continue this tradition in this journal. The virus takes hold in different ways. Sometimes you puke up blood. Sometimes you just lose your flesh. But pain is always there, though, even when you change. And poor Emily feels that right now. I can see it in her eyes. I can see her screaming, but she has no lungs to scream. She does not know how to breathe anymore, for her lungs fell out when she stood up. I stood aside, letting her join Troy and her new family of chattering skeletons. May whoever reads this enjoy the story. Radio show host. That concludes our broadcast for tonight. And that was The Plague of Skeletons. Remember, it is a cold night, so be very careful if you hear chattering in an alleyway. Be very careful. This is the Cultist Den. See you next time.